Tell me the young man that you were, I believe it was 1991, before all of this happened.
I was working for the city of Columbus Parks and Recreation. The best job I ever had. Um, I was I had just brought my second apartment. Well, actually, it was a double. I graduated from a double to I graduated from apartment to a small house, and I guess you could say I was living the, as corny as this may sound, the American dream. I was happy. I was single. I was dating, and I had a great relationship with my mother and my brothers, and I was enjoying life. I was happy.
And how old were you at this point?
I was actually 30.
You were 30 years old. All right.
Yes,
So if I have this right, from what I read, you're walking down the street and you see your
yes,
biological daughter on the street. I mean, you see her, and you say hello to her. You say hi, right? Do
that's
I have
right.
this correct? You just
You
say
do.
hello. You say hi, and this is your biological daughter. And I guess at this point, you guys really aren't that close. She's 10 years old. Is that accurate?
No, we were not close. I was never allowed to see her. Her family kind of like looked down on me and my family, and I hadn't seen her since she was 5 years old. So no, we were not close at all. And I really hardly ever recognized her. She recognized me. I didn't recognize her until
Exactly.
she said something.
So you say hello to your daughter, and then days later, you're accused of rape.
That
Explain
is.
what happened.
Well, what happened is my attorney called me and said that I needed to turn myself in because I was accused of raping a 10-year-old child, and I didn't understand it. I couldn't believe it at all, and then it took me back to when I'd had the run in with her, but I just didn't understand it. I was just totally just stunned by that. So I turned myself in. Uh, no one took the case very serious. I was released on I think $100 bond, and I went home. And
And this is in
then
the
a
state
year,
of Ohio, correct? Ohio, do I have that right?
yes, Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah.
I went home, and about a year or so later, they wanted to go to trial, and I never, like I said, I never really thought that it would be any that I would ever get convicted of this. I had uh, all my whereabouts were known. The witnesses were there, and all. I just could not see how I could ever get convicted. I had a judge that was very, very understanding and all, and I just I just never saw it coming. Um,
Hmm.
the trial lasted approximately 2.5 days. Um, she, I want to first say that there's nothing as powerful as a beautiful 10-year-old child on the stand pointing a finger at you, saying that you did something that you didn't do. I mean, it's very powerful, and it's very devastating. And it's hard to get beyond it because we love our children in this country, and God forbid anyone who harms them. But I did not do this crime, and I believe her testimony was it was incoherent. A lot of people couldn't understand it, but I think the only thing that the people could understand was her pointing the finger at me, saying that I think I think my daddy did this to me.
Hmm. And do you know why she said this? Was she coerced? Like, what was the reason why she was pointing at you?
Well, we know now that I knew that me and her mother had a love and hate relationship. She loved to
Hmm.
hate me. uh, But we know that she was being coerced. Okay, she was confused. That they did shuffle and manipulate the photos. Um, the police department had no love for me whatsoever or my family, and so it was a combination of all those things right there that where we arrived at where we were at me being convicted.
Mm. And I want to be clear, there was no DNA evidence. You had witnesses. I mean, there was literally nothing really there except for that moment that you describe in the courtroom, which, like you said, can resonate with people. But there was nothing there.
Well, sir, there was DNA evidence.
Oh, okay.
There was a medical report, but none of that was
In the trial.
displayed in the trial. None of it.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
was a pair of panties in question with DNA on them, and there was um, a medical procedure that was done that I didn't find out until I was in prison, that she
Mm.
had went and had a medical procedure, and the people that did the medical procedure said that her vagina there was a number category that they give little kids when they are raped, that gives them that's the size of their vagina. I think it was from like a 1 to 4 is on that number chart. Hers was like a 3, which is indicative of regular sexual intercourse at a young age. I never knew that, sir, until I was already in prison.
Mm. Mm. And I want to be clear, when I said no DNA evidence, I mean nothing implicating you. There was nothing medical or scientific saying that you were the person. It's
No,
just that, and that's what's really scary. That there's just no evidence there.
there was no evidence. There was none, sir.
Yeah,
None.
yeah, that's really scary. So as this and so what do you what are you convicted of? What's your sentence?
I was convicted of kidnapping and rape, and I was sentenced to 15 years to life in prison.
So when you go behind bars, you're 30, 31 years old at this point. Uh, how how are you getting through this? How are you able to survive this, being behind bars for a crime you did not commit? And from what I've always heard, they treat people who are sex offenders against children, terribly. So how are you able to survive?
Prison is a microcosm of society. They go on the respect code in prison. I believe even more so than out here. Meaning, if you come to prison for a heinous crime, then we make a judgment on how we're going to look at you and how we're going to deal with you based on who you are, who you was, and how you conduct yourself. People knew of me and my family on the street. People respected me while I was in prison. I was never shunned, never humiliated because of my crime. Even my haters were giving me the benefit of the doubt and said, he might be this, he might be that, but he's definitely not a child molester. So I'm very, very, very proud of that. And also I connected real well with young guys and gangbangers, because when I got to prison after filing for DNA testing 3 times, which I was turned down by the courts, I started like helping young guys, gangbangers, get their GEDs. I coached them. I worked in the recreation department, so I had access to young guys in sports and all. And I helped a lot of guys. I actually helped uh, 26 guys get their GEDs and talk these guys into get their GEDs. They would have never done it because of me. I'm very proud of that.
Wow. That's really important to do that kind of work, and it's good to hear that
Yes, sir.
that you were respected in that kind of way and your safety was okay. Let me ask you this: I heard you say in another interview that you don't feel like your circumstance was because of race. You feel like for you specifically, you don't think that uh, they came after you in this way because you are a black man. Explain to me why you think it wasn't because of race.
No, I don't. There are a lot of cases that are because of race. I don't think mine in particular was because I believe, sir, that if you are, I believe that people are convicted because of race. I believe that people are convicted because they're poor and white, poor and black. You're still subject to be convicted, or circumstances. Okay. I believe in my case, it was misidentification, which is real prevalent in these type of cases. But I also believe that there was a lot of underhanded stuff that went on. Her family, okay, uh, the her confusing this child, and coercing this child, and all, and having this child to believe that it is I that done this, and it wasn't. And then when we find out, because I'm going to let you know what happened, because we do know what happened to this child and who did this to this child. And once you know that, sir, then it'll all come together on the circumstances of why I was in prison and why I was convicted of this crime.
What do you think you lost most? I mean, outside of your freedom, the obvious, but what do you think you lost most when you were behind bars those 18 years?
When you're in prison, sir, there's degrees of loss. I lost my mother. I lost my father, my grandmother. I lost my grandfather. I lost 3 uncles, and you don't get to go to any funerals when you're doing a life sentence. So you have to find a different way to mourn in there. It's horrible. The losses are extreme and horrible, especially when you lose family members that you feel that you could have been there for them at some type of capacity if you were out. I believe that I could have added years to my mother's life had I been out. I believe I could have added years to my father's life, definitely to my grandmother and my grandfather's life. And I believe that I could have added years to my uncle's lives had I been out.
Now, one of the powerful things about your case is that they offer you parole, but they
Yes.
say only if you admit being guilty and register as a sex offender. And you said no to this how many times?
3 times. And I was
Three
given
to
5 years each time I said no.
5 years each time you said no. I mean, that must have been hard because you want to be out, you want to be free, you want to see your family. I mean, that's just courage to say no. I'm not going to let y'all do this. What was your thinking to say, you know what? No, I'm not doing this.
Well, because for one is I was fighting for my freedom, and I would never ever admit to something that I did not do. That's just something that you don't do. Um, I for me to admit to doing something, I could have never. I wouldn't. There was a couple of family members who actually thought that, hey, we love you, we need you, we want you to get out. We want you to get out, and so we don't care if what people say about you. And
Wow.
so I down here. So for me, it was it was not hard whatsoever, sir, for making that decision. And there are people who will admit to doing something that they didn't do. There are a lot, and there was some that probably would have done it. And we know that there are some that have done it. There are some exonerees that have admitted guilt or signed their life away so they can get out of prison, even though they were not guilty. But
Awesome. That's incredible.
Yes,
That's
sir.
incredible. Yeah, it's really incredible. So again, you asked for DNA testing 3 times. You get turned down,
Yes.
and then finally, when the Innocence Project comes along, they suddenly are able to find the underwear of the victim. They can suddenly find it when the Innocence Project comes along. Tell us about that.
Oh gosh, yes. I filed for DNA testing 3 times. Okay, and each time I was denied each time I was denied. So then when the Innocent Project and the Columbus Dispatch get involved, all of a sudden, well, they had told me that the articles in question was not around or was missing. But when the Innocent Project and the Columbus Dispatch got involved in it, all of a sudden, it mysteriously turns up. All from 1991 all the way, it had been missing until 2006 when the Innocent Project got involved in my case and the Columbus Dispatch, and then it was found. Wow, imagine that.
That's crazy. And how long did it take from there for you to finally be released?
I was one of the quickest exonerees to be released. I'm proud to say that because the whole process takes anywhere from 4 to 7 years to get someone out of prison. And I was out of prison once they got involved into my case. I was out in about a year.
Wow.
About a year.
That's so crazy that you could be. Wow. It's just crazy that they can deny DNA testing. Something has to really change in this system
You're
to be
so
denied
right.
3 times. Something has
Just
to
because they
change.
could. There's no reason
Just because
on
they
it. Only
could.
just because they could.
Just because they could. That's
Yes.
So you've been out since 2008, and you're the first person that I've spoken to that's been out for this amount of time, right? You were
Yes.
in jail for 18 years. You've been out since 2008. I don't know if healed is the right word, but I'm sure there's trauma you go through when you're behind bars. How are you feeling now? And what did you do to just heal or get better from the experience of not having your freedom for that amount of time?
Well, that's a good question. We suffer from a lot of things when we get out. A lot of us suffer from PTSD. I never thought I've had PTSD. I thought it was something that was like crazy, but there's certain forms of PTSD for me, or there's issues. I think a lot of us come out with warning labels. But here's the thing. We have trust issues. We have commitment issues. I have no perception of time. I don't know what time I'm going to bed. I don't know what time I'm getting up. Because after being told for years what time to get up and what time to go to bed, hey, this is a freedom to me. Okay. I like the night more than I like the day. Why? Because the night was taken away from me. And you're in prison, you're locked up at around between 7 and 7:30. There's no looking at the stars, looking at the moon, walking out on the grass or anything like that because you're locked up for security reasons. So the night is like a freedom to me. I like the night more than the day. Commitment issues, trust issues. When you're compensated, your family is the first people to take advantage of you. The money that you get is never enough, and it has to last you for the rest of your life. And when you go in, like I did with family saying yes, you have to learn to say no. And it took me 7 years to learn to say no to family and friends. And when I did, they turned on me. Okay. And commitment issues. I don't know who's right, who was Mrs. Right, if I was right for Mrs. Right or anything like that, sir. I don't know. I had serious commitment issues, and I'm learning to cope with it now because I've learned that you have to have a relationship with yourself before you can have a relationship with anyone else. I really didn't know who I was when I got out. I thought I knew who I was, but I really didn't, because when you're in prison and you do 18 years in prison, believe it or not, you don't get a chance to be in a loving relationship, a caring relationship, to bond with a significant other and all. I was in the dating process when I went. I hadn't really lived with any women or anything like that in my life. So when you go to prison at the age of, say someone goes to prison at the age of 18 and they do 10 or 15 years in prison. Well, there's no emotional maturity in prison. So you're still basically that same person emotionally when you get out. And I found that I was that same person. I thought that I had matured to a point where I could be with one woman and settle down and like in a marriage relationship, but I really was not ready, sir.
That's so powerful because I think about that. I've interviewed folks who've been behind bars for 44 years, for 28 years, and I just
Right.
wonder when you get out, yourself 18 years, like we all want love, we all want a connection, and I'm sure when you're behind bars, you want that as well. And
Yes.
how do you make that happen when you've been in bondage for all this time? Like they don't teach you how to love. You're taught the opposite. So I
Yes.
think about that. Like that must be really hard to come out as a grown man and lost those crucial years of dating, of being in a relationship, breaking up, falling back in love, breaking up. That must be really, really difficult to come out.
It was difficult because I hurt a woman that did not deserve to be hurt. And but I found myself through it. Sometimes breakups are actually good because as a result of the breakup, I learned myself. Okay. I found out who I was. And now I'm more honest. I'm more transparent in regards to relationships. If I ever like I right now I kind of like do situationships. Do you know what a situationship is?
I know very well,
There you go.
Mr.
I
McClendon.
do
I know, brother.
situationship. So right now, I fall in like instead of falling in love, and that works for me right now. But I'm open for love if it happens, okay. But I'm not out
Yeah,
here running for it, running, looking for it or whatever. Because I like where I'm at though, because it was all about looking in the mirror and being honest and having to learn to have a relationship with myself. That was very important.
definitely. So do you have any communication with the 10-year-old victim, your biological daughter? Any communication whatsoever?
I do not. I do not care to. I do not want to. From what I hear, she's still in denial. I don't even count her. You know, I've never very brought into her being my daughter, sir. Okay, I never did, and I've always shied away from that from that because I don't believe. I believe there was a lot of evilness that went on. I don't. Let me share with you about the DNA results. When they gave me my DNA results and they came back um, that I didn't do it. Okay, I was happy. Okay, hello, truth. The first words that came out of my mouth when I got my DNA results. Okay, then Mr. Ronald Bryan, who's happened to be a friend of mine, a prosecutor, he wanted to do his DNA test to state. I understand that, but I didn't really trust it. I'm thinking, we always are paranoid when we get out. I'm thinking, oh, something's gonna happen. My attorneys assured me, Robert, the science, it's a science. It would say the same thing. I said, well, why are they doing? He said, that's their job to do. So Ronald Bryan did a test on me, okay, but he also did a test on family members. So when the test came back again, it confirmed again that it was not me, but they came back with a hit. You know what a hit is, right?
Yeah, yeah, I understand. Yeah, there's a possibility, something. Yeah.
So this is why, to take you back, that I believe that I was convicted because all of this was planned. They allowed me to go to prison for a crime I never committed. I think that is diabolical, and I think it is the closest thing to evil that you could see.
Hmm. Now you got about a million and a half for your 18 years behind bars. Such a tiny amount. I don't even $1 million for 18 years. Good God.
Yes,
Uh, when you think about these settlements and the money that exonerees get, uh, it doesn't heal anything. It doesn't help. Uh,
it
and
doesn't.
and I believe it took you 3 years to get it. Is that accurate? It took you 3 years.
Yes,
That
it
that's
did.
even that's insane too.
Hmm.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on these settlements? That I mean, some states won't give it to you at all, but
Some
these
states don't.
settlements that
I believe. First of all, it's never ever enough, especially if it has to last you for the rest of your life. And people need to understand that when you're in prison, you don't get to pay into Social Security, you don't get to pay into retirement or anything. That money is all you get. A lot of people, when they get out of prison after doing 20 years, 30 years, they're too old to go to work. No one wants to work a job when they get out of prison after being in there for years, years, and years. So you have to be very, very careful with your money. You have to make it last. You have to find ways to generate money, find ways to make it through. And when you have family that you feel that you want to bless or give money to that takes away from the monies that you have, then you got to get comfortable in your life. There's certain things that I think that exonerees should do that I advise them to do, such as getting annuities. If you're gonna buy a house for you. You're not supposed to buy no house for. Maybe you want to help your mom get a house, okay, but you're not supposed to get no house for no baby mamas, no girlfriends, no family members, and all that stuff, cars and all that foolish stuff that I did with my family, okay. And you need to learn to live and live as if this money is going to last you the rest of your life. So you have to plan. Currently now, I've taken a lot of hits financially, dealing with family and friends, but I'm in a better place now because I'm peace. I've had friends now around me that are real. They don't have hidden agendas, and I count my blessings more than I count money. I'm more richer now than I ever have been in my life, and it has nothing to do with money, sir.
We have to go soon, but I just got to ask you this.
Yes.
A couple of the key things when you talk about your case as far as being denied DNA testing 3 times in a row. And I know you said it wasn't about race, but I do want to ask you this. When it comes to something like that, do you think they still would have denied you DNA testing three times if you were a white inmate?
I do,
Mm.
to a degree, because there are some white inmates that were denied. They did a 30, they complied a 30 list, people of 30. Now, among those 30, there were some white people among those also. If you want to say race, then you could say that a lot of Black people are convicted more than white people for the same crime. I get that.
Yeah.
But in particular, my crime, I'm sure we all know that there is racism involved in the criminal justice system. I do believe that. But I'm not going to say that like I've already admitted that it wasn't in my case. But I do believe that the judge and the judicial system is just bent on power and bent on doing what it is they want to do. You got to understand, people make careers on these convictions. Once they're there, they're not trying to hold on. And a lot of it don't have anything to do with if you're Black or if you're white. They want to keep you in prison because you lost. Not
And it's
because,
profitable.
right, not because if they wasn't bound by the laws and the courts and the attorneys and the Innocent Project to get you out, they would not, even if they knew that you were innocent, they're not going to let you out. They're not. And that's why I'm so blessed and give so much praise for the Innocent Project and lawyers that fight for these causes, because it's a lot of hard work, it's a lot of hard effort, it's a lot of time involved. These students, which are the blood of the Innocent Project, put in a lot of work and time on doing these cases. And I'm telling you, it's a lot, and they give their heart and soul to it. So I'm very, very thankful. The Columbus Dispatch, I could not be here without the help of the Columbus Dispatch. They work jointly, and I think other newspapers need to do more in terms of working for the criminal justice system. And because trust me, there's other people in prison that do not belong there. I know it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I want to say thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. It's so important, and
Yes, sir.
it's good to talk to somebody who's been out for a while and is doing as well as possible. Of course, I can't imagine what it's like to have 18 years taken away, but it's good to see something on the other end. You know what I mean? Because there's just so much trauma. So I really appreciate you telling your story. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you for having me and all, and I really appreciate it, sir.
Definitely. And shout out to the Innocence Project. They're doing
Shout
God's
out
work.
for the OIP, Ohio Innocent Project, the best innocent project in the country.